states in several texts many men who went to the east to become mystics say that Baphomet and Muhammad were the same being and were worshipped in mystic Islam. A Muslim would call such statements sacrilegious. However, Baphomet also has black wings. It seems that all the old religions are tied to horn gods some way or another. The Age of Ram. 199 PAGE. First off, it should be mentioned that in the Hebrew doctrines they classify their angelic beings as Aralim, Chsmalim, Aphanim, Malachim, Sheath HaKadosh, etc. This means they do not group all their spirit forces together and just call them all angels. In fact, the term is foreign to them. This is because in encountering these beings through evocation, the magicians and Kabbalists learned that many of them were very different from the others, so they categorized them as such. Again, the term angel comes from the word angel. It appears only fallen angels respond when evoked. In other writings it says many tribes wandered after what they called the Chaldean Baalim, although it has not been determined that all the IMs mentioned above can be grouped under that one title. It seems highly possible. In other cultures angels are given names such as Sukalin and Amshir Spenters. The main concern is the actual uses given for these beings. It describes that some reveal treasure, some make women fall in love with you, some give you amnesty, etc. I would highly consider again, why would a high vibration being want to grant a human undeserved favors just because they knew how to do a ritual? There is of course much more at stake when entering into leagues with these types of spirits, and most have unleashed a never-ending karmic seesaw for tampering with spiritual forces for selfish means. Reason 148. Since their plans have reached completion, they are now prepared to tell the world bluntly about their involvement with angels, demons, Baalim, Gregory, Nephilim, Rephaim, and who knows what else. We can assume there are always things that will not be talked about until they happen, just as it's never good to tell anyone your desires before they come to pass. Be watchful of these watchers. Some things I have put direct emphasis on and may have been a little repetitive. I have done this on purpose so that it may stick with you. Spirituality and science as a couple have first birthed monsters, just as Cain was the first child of Adam and Eve. It is these monsters that have become very strong thought forms, moving about on their own will and totally uncontrollable by those who originally brought them forth. We have been given the task of removing them. Intel has now released its Nehalem computer chip. 200 PAGE. The geometry which has now been placed over our Earth grid through crop circles created by sound devices like the HAP, have allowed the elite to erect a new grid which has been termed the Earth Consciousness Grid. This keeps humans somewhat trapped in the matrix until they learn the methods of building up strength to break out. As you see, they call the new system the Internet or Internal Net. The biggest hint is the Ethernet cable. Why is it given such a name? Ether itself means spirit, so why is a term like that being used in comparison to computers? Since the ozone layer is melting, there is no telling what the potential is if it's dissolved. Favor is often disguised as misfortune. Reason 149. These shapes are created by advanced sound devices used by the elite to place frequencies into the Earth grid. Those frequencies affect health, mentality, belief, etc. When really studying these designs in sacred geometry, we find them to be insignias and logos of the dark side, designs caused by extremely low frequencies or ELFs. Research Clandi plates. 201 PAGE. Reason 150. It becomes obvious that crop circles are not created by benevolent alien forces from space trying to communicate to us. They are created by the same hyperdimensional tricksters that plague our planet and continue to fool us with their lies and godlike technology. After examining the two faiths of Islam and Judaism, it became obvious the one was holding the power of an older god from the age of the ram, the other the power of the lion and the serpent. Getting all the details becomes burdensome, as many lies are woven in with the truth to discredit the other side, much like the modern Republican and Democrat candidate scenario. This becomes the power one has over you once they can tell you what happened in the past and you have no way of proving it. They even tell a person how long a second is, thus what time it is. That type of control is mind control in its purest degree, very hard to notice due to its subtlety and necessity. Reason 151. The elite are playing mind games on a stage, wasting our time. They will assume any role to sway opinions as necessary, and this is master chess with an occasional gambit. Lincoln. 202 PAGE. This false light that has come to the world has deceived many. It is the same false light that says it has come to illuminate those who are humble and worship it. Light in the Latin is lux, named after Lucifer, the bright morning star of Venus. The strategy they are using is to give you two choices in which both are no good. The word democratic taking its root from the Arabic word demos or demon, and republican taking its root from the word reptile or refame. So the choice is reptiles or demons you choose. To prove this, one simply has to note how many times leaders and presidents have been photographed making the sign of Baphomet, the goat god of Mendes. Due to bloodlines of the presidents of the US having Merovingian origin, they are definitely blue-blood reptilian hybrids walking around the White House and Parliament hailing from the Orion constellation, Venus, Agata, Mars, Vulcan and who knows where else. Ruling over us, pretending they are like us. This is why they continue with this bloodbath with the slightest show of regret or resolution. I'm sure many reading this are familiar with David Icke's work, so it is unnecessary to reiterate what he has been explaining for years in detail, thus I have been mainly covering how the blending took place. Reason 152. Here is what commonly happens. Because the light cannot comprehend the darkness, many who do not have such strong evil inclinations refuse to believe anyone, especially their leaders who have such charisma, could be involved in such a vile plot of enslaving humanity. The recent Zeitgeist movie, obviously directed by the elite, shifts the blame of our current world state on the byproduct of humanity making the wrong decisions in regards to how the planet is preserved. Thus their solution is the Venus Project. Anything related to Venus you will find the Dark Lord in the midst of. This is why it gives you power to know such things, so you cannot be easily fooled as the masses often are. The same companies that were talked about on the first Zeitgeist were those who funded it. They have no shame in admitting that. Highlight the problem, provide a solution. 203 PAGE. First off, the term itself is animist. An animist is a person that emulates, worships, and sometimes mates with animals in order to gain the ability of the particular animal. In Africa there was no limit to how many tribes were animist, and much of the information on how to do such things come from Africa. The ancients played a dot-to-dot with the stars in the heavens, making animal outlines in the constellations based on the energy they felt was emitting from the stars. One of the main tribes known to do this were the Nubians from the Temple of Sheba discussed earlier. It is true the actual Garden of Eden was somewhere in Kush, the lush land of Nubia where the four rivers flowed, and the Queen of the South was in position as ruler over the Horn of Africa. Remember, Nubia had all the gold mines that made the pharaohs rich beyond their imaginations, that is of course when they could subdue it and collect tribute. The Nubians proved to be a challenge, as the annuals record lengthy wars between the Nubians and Egypt. Even Alexander the Great, the legendary two-horn, known by the Arabs as Dul-Qurnayn, who built the wall to keep the hordes away from the Holy Land, was turned back at Nubia when faced with Candace commanding elephants in legions for war. This I believe fueled much of the animosity between the Europeans and the darker Nubians, which they later enslaved and dragged the Americas. In the end, Nubia took over Egypt completely right around the time it was due to crumble anyway, just as Obama has taken over the US. The Nubians later inherited the new version of Christianity by missionaries infesting their country. It is said in Arabian prophecy that the Nubians will rise again and destroy the Kaaba, and it will never be restored. Ethiopia has ether as its root. The people have smooth, dark, beautiful skin, silky hair, and lulling eyes. The first stories of the serpent, who were called Nagas, were in Nubia first, and then they migrated to Persia. They are called by the Nubians Negusi, which is a well-respected last name in their country till this day. Reason 153. The Naga are more in the image of the serpents described in Japan and China rather than bipedal hybrids. As I said before, the serpent races are as vast as our own, possibly a lot more diverse, It is clear man has inhabited this planet, along with the serpents for thousands of years intermingling. We easily